We tend to think of words as just labels, right? A cup is a cup, a tree is a tree. But what if I told you there's so much more than that? What if the words we choose actually build the reality we live in? Today, we're diving into that hidden power.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like the beginning of a weird riddle. But the answer reveals something truly fascinating about how language really works. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll not only see the connection, but it might just change how you think about the words you use every day.
All right, so here's the big idea, the core of what we're talking about today. Our entire explainer is built on this one powerful premise. Terminology isn't just a passive mirror reflecting the world back at us. No, it's an active force. It's a tool that shapes our perceptions, our values, and even what we do. To see this in action, let's start with a perfect, everyday example. Starbucks. They didn't just build a coffee empire. They built a cultural one. And they did it in a huge way with a dictionary they basically invented themselves. I mean, just look at this. It's so simple, but it is absolute genius. Starbucks took universal words, small, medium, large, and just replaced them. They literally made us, the customers, learn and speak their language just to order a coffee. And here's the brilliant psychological trick behind it. First, you have to put in a tiny bit of effort to learn their words. And once you do, once you can say venti without thinking twice, you get this subtle feeling of being an insider. You're part of the club. That little bit of effort turns a simple purchase into a ritual, and it makes you feel like you belong. So you see, it all comes together. Words like grande, venti, and even barista create this premium Italian-style vibe. They've built this consistent, global microculture where a venti latte means the exact same thing whether you're in Toronto or Tokyo. That's the power of language as a brand. Okay, so that's how language can bring people together. But what happens when it does the exact opposite? Now let's pivot and look at the world of science, which often shows us how terminology can create a massive, massive divide. This is such a classic example, and it's a huge one. In science, a theory, like the theory of gravity, is the absolute peak. It's a powerful model that's been tested again and again and is backed by tons of evidence. But in everyday conversation, when we say, I have a theory, it just means a hunch, right? A wild guess. This single word gap creates enormous misunderstandings and can undermine decades of serious research. And this confusion isn't just academic. It has real-world consequences, especially when it comes to things like funding. Ideas that are easy to understand, like cancer, naturally get more public attention and support. But these super important, complex ideas like social determinants of health, which basically means where you live can impact your health more than your DNA, they struggle. Why? Because the name is a barrier. What we can't easily name, we often end up neglecting. Now let's bring all of this home and talk about something deeply personal and human. How we talk about commitment. Specifically, the unpaid, from-the-heart work people do for others. Believe me, the specific words we choose here carry an incredible amount of weight. In French, and in lots of other cultures, you have a word like bénévolat. This is basically your classic idea of volunteering. It's informal, flexible, and comes from a place of goodwill. Helping out at a school fundraiser on a Saturday, that sort of thing. The key idea here is that a bénévole gives their spare time. But then there's this other word, volontariat. And this is a whole different ballgame. This isn't just casual. This describes a formal, structured commitment. It's tied to a specific mission, it has clear expectations, and a much higher degree of obligation. This isn't about spare time. It's about dedicating yourself to a cause. So when you see them side by side like this, the difference is crystal clear, right? You've got informal, spontaneous giving on one side and a structured, high-obligation commitment on the other. One is giving time, the other is dedicating yourself to a mission. And this brings us to a really, really critical question. What about someone who spends years of their life taking care of a sick parent or a child with a disability? Yes, their work is unpaid, but is bénévole, a simple volunteer, really the right word for that kind of profound, life-altering commitment? Because, and this is so important, when we use a word that implies something as light or optional, we risk completely diminishing the reality of what they do. Caregiving isn't just a nice gesture you do in your spare time. It's a constant, demanding, absolutely vital responsibility. It's a mission. The word we choose matters because it impacts everything from social recognition to political support to the dignity of the role itself. This whole idea of deep, meaningful commitment, it's so central to what we do that it's actually baked right into the name of this channel. Let me show you a quick, fascinating bit of word history that ties this all together. It all starts with this one single ancient word from the Frankish language, which was spoken centuries and centuries ago. The word is wadi.
So this word, wadi, meant a promise, a guarantee, a pledge. Over time, it evolved into the French word gage, which also means a pledge. And get this, it shares the exact same root as the English words wed and wedding. So what's the common thread? A wedding isn't just a spoken promise, it's a public pledge, a commitment made real, made tangible. And that is the entire spirit of wadi.
So from Starbucks coffee to breakthrough science to the incredible work of caregivers, we've seen that words are so much more than just details. They are the very architecture of our understanding. They can build communities or they can create divides. They can elevate a role or they can completely erase it.
And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. If we want to change how we see the world, if we want to properly value the commitments people make, if we want to bridge these huge gaps in understanding, we have to start with our vocabulary.
Because real engagement, real commitment, it's not a passive thing. It requires movement, it demands action. And sometimes that action can be as simple as choosing our words with care and with intention, recognizing the power they hold to shape our world for the better. It really does start with each of us.
If this reflection resonated with you, do us a favor and hit that like button, and definitely subscribe to Wadi to keep the conversation going. We're building a community that's dedicated to understanding the forces that shape our world, one pledge at a time. Thanks so much for watching.